Today, I'm happy to be here with Danielle Gardner, and some of you may recognize her from, various her Facebook page or the videos you may have seen of her online, her website. Her Facebook page is called Quiet Marketing with Danielle Gardner. Well, Danielle, first, I just want to say hi to you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this.
Hi, George. Thank you. It's always really fun to catch up and have a chat about things. So thanks for inviting me into this
Yeah,
conversation.
so we're going to talk about how do we respond to the overwhelming times that we're in, but just overall the kinds of entrepreneurs, the kinds of business owners you work with really are looking for an alternative to the hustle and the grind of the mainstream business teachings. I want to actually, before we get going, I want to just share with people your bio, and then we'll kind of get into
Yeah,
the
for sure.
conversation. So Danielle Gardner specializes in helping sensitive women to clarify their message, to market with quiet confidence, and to grow their audience without having to spend so much time online. Danny started her self-employment journey as an energy worker using the modalities of kinesiology, reconnective healing, and Akashic records readings. The evolution from energy work to business mentoring came about organically as clients started asking her for help with starting their own online holistic business. And at this point, she has helped many people to do that, to get their business online, to clarify their message, to do their business, to plan their business with a more, like she said, quiet confidence and connection to a more organic rhythm that is sustainable for them. So, so Danny, I guess maybe the first the question I want to ask you is, you pioneered, or maybe kind of popularized at least among our circles, the idea of quiet marketing, or taking business in a more slower way and still be successful, as you show yourself and your clients show. So what does that mean, slower? Yeah, I'll start there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll start by sharing a little story. It was about 2017. I always remember it was 2017 because it was the first place we rented in Spain. And I was at a point where my business hadn't really taken off yet. I had clients, but it was sort of still really kind of early stages. But I'd spent the last 3 or 4 years trying to make it work, trying to get liftoff and really hustling and being ever present everywhere on all different platforms all of the time. And what happened this one day is I had started asking myself in the morning, as part of my morning practice, how can I bring more ease and joy into my day? And I was kind of getting stuck on that question. And then I kind of became aware, like, yeah, this is a few days in a row now. And this question's starting to irritate me, actually. So I went and sat on my bed, crossed my legs, and, closed my eyes. And with the intention of like tuning in, okay. As soon as my eyes went down, I heard aim lower. And I was like, what? What the hell? Like, I'm always been, this high achiever, reaching for the stars. Aiming lower is just not something I would ever, ever, ever think of doing, And yet it was like in my own voice. And so I was just like, what happened there? And after a few minutes, I just started to think, okay, well, what would it look like to aim lower? And as I started to consider that, so interesting. It was like a pool of joy, a joyful feeling just started to rise up from my base and like flood into my stomach, basically. And I was like, oh my goodness, like what is going on here? But it was like a very visceral experience and enough to really get my attention. And I thought, okay, for those kind of two things to happen, to hear those two words and to have this feeling viscerally, there must be something, I need to pay attention to. So I started to experiment with aiming lower. And I think really the first thing I did is I let go of income goals. I was, I kept having this like income goal, and at the end of the month, I didn't get it. I decided to let that go. And that was pure joy, and just focus on building community. And so what happened is, over time, like, this is when my business actually took off, by slowing down. And what I realized is, or kind of aiming lower, but it was like there was an evolution to those two words. I realized that it was not absolutely aiming lower. I mean, it was for someone like me, because I was always aiming for the stars, expecting things to happen quickly. But it was the pace at which I expected things to happen that was the issue. And then when I started to look around, I thought, that's most people's issue, right? It's the pace. It's not that we can't have big goals or whatever, it's the pace. So then this whole idea of aiming slower arose, and I really believe that by slowing down, by being very mindful, by doing things properly, we actually make more progress.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing the origin story of that. And if I could just add my own kind of example of this, ironically, it was about my joyful productivity course. When the last time I launched it, I was in the beginning, the first couple days of sales, I was discouraged because they weren't keeping pace with what I had set as a goal. And I was, I was getting discouraged. And then I also, it's funny, I also kind of had this thought, and like, well, why don't we just let that go and then go for a really minimal number, just really, really super doable. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go for that super. Then it's so easy. Then I'm pretty much already there,
Yeah.
And then I got happier about it. And then I just continued, I continued my launch process, maybe from a better energy or whatever. And what was funny was that it surpassed even the original goal. Now, I'm not saying that that's what it should happen, but it was just such a funny example, maybe in the universe showing me that, what, it's okay. There's this dynamic that, like you're saying, if we bring more joy into what we're doing, whatever the results are, we have joy. It's like great. But also we tend to be there tends to be a genius there, within the joy and within the working at our pace. So I want you to talk about this a bit more, to work at our pace. And for the people who are saying, well, could I, working at my pace, I might be not doing as much as other people. Is it possible to be doing things slower, doing things less, and still accomplish,
more,
having a good business?
Yes, I think absolutely. And I think the biggest part of the problem is that we're seeing what other people are doing. That's the biggest problem. Left to our own devices, our type of audiences, we're doing our soul work. We want to have this great experience while we're helping people. And so left to our own devices, if probably we're not for the internet and social media, although of course there's absolute, my business wouldn't exist if they didn't exist. So, but we're influenced by that. So we start to think that we should be going faster, and we should be, So like, one of the things I love to do, or mention, if I notice people, they're looking at all this stuff, I'm like, have tunnel vision. I don't know if we spoke about this last time, George, but it's one of my favorite strategies, because I know myself, even when I see what other coaches are doing, I can still get triggered. Like,
Absolutely.
Maybe I should do that.
And it's well, I mean, because we're tribal creatures. I mean, it's natural for us to want to, stay in the tribe. And when we see our peers or people we think are our peers doing things, we're like, well, maybe then I should do that to keep pace with the tribe, I guess. But yeah, so keep going. Like, tunnel vision. How do you do that? How do you?
Yeah, because it's one thing to say it, right? But in a practical sense, how do you actually have tunnel vision? So one of the very practical things that I did starting a few years ago is I noticed the posts that were coming up on Facebook that were triggering me, right? And I was just made sure I unliked those pages, even if I liked those people personally. I did whatever I could to close myself off. So then it was like, hold on, I'm a friend of it. You know, I could see that there were these connections, that there was still, that was why things were still showing up. So I did a lot to curate my newsfeed to really trim it down, you know. So, and honestly, I've got to say, apart from yourself, George, and sometimes Tad, I don't even see a lot of his stuff. I don't see what anyone else is doing. And I love that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yours is definitely a page people ought to follow if they want to continue immersing themselves in these kinds of values and this kind of message, that we can work at a sustainable, joyful pace and accomplish a successful business, have a successful business. So one of the things that you have done is to scale back on a lot of what you were doing and then work differently. So tell us a bit about that. What do you advise? So like the typical advice for social media out there, like join lots of Facebook groups, respond to as many people as you possibly can in the most thoughtful way possible, which is like, how do I have so many hours in the day? But anyway, tell us, I mean, because you had done some of that, but then you had.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess Facebook groups really were very helpful for me. They really got me going. I actually don't quite know how I was getting clients before that. I know I was, but this is the thing, when you get the wrong type of tunnel vision from being in Facebook groups, right? Because what happens is you start to believe that if I'm not in this, my business is going to shrivel up and die. And that's what was happening to me. So yeah, I had been advised, join these groups. And I was like, when I got introduced to that world, I thought, how interesting. And, I did the thing. I joined the groups and I had a little spreadsheet and, I worked out all the stuff. And it probably was enjoyable for a time. But then I guess, just getting more and more in tune with my body and my sensitivities and what it was telling me. Like I knew those moments when I was like, gosh, I've got to go into the Facebook group and I've got to find something to comment on. And it felt terrible, and I'm like, Danny, what are you doing here? But then, my belief was, but if I don't stay here, I'm going to drop through the internet. I'm not going to exist,
Yeah. And just to be clear, these are the strategies about going into free Facebook groups that other people are facilitating and just trying to be helpful so that people might see you and then hire you, all that stuff. So now you're really like tunnel vision with your strategies. And one of your strategies is so interesting, which is to kind of plan your business 3 months at a time, right? Like that's one of the things that you're actually putting a course together on this, and because you've been doing this and it's been effective in helping your clients do this. So tell us about that, because usually we're taught this annual plan, and it's overwhelming, and but yeah, tell us about this 3 month idea.
Yeah, so it's something that I've been working with in various forms probably for the last 2 years or so. And I've just refined it, and really it keeps me so grounded. So it's a very simple process, okay? It begins with this idea of looking back, right? And I got that idea from Todd Herman. I actually never did his 90-day year program or whatever, but I was in his launch sequence once, and I got a few resources of him. And this is when I was introduced to the owl and the wow brain. And so it was mind-blowing for me, this idea that what most of us are doing, our perspective is from where we are to where we're going. And that's the owl brain. And it's kind of like, I'm not there yet. I need to do more. So it's all that not enoughness. And the wow brain is from where you are to look back to where you've been, either in the past week or the past month or the past year. And that was invaluable to me. So that's how I start this process, by looking back on the last 3 months, looking at what came to fruition, what did I learn, What do I feel good about? What do I feel, oh, I'm not sure about that. I think I want to change that. And through that little reflection, what emerges is like what's important moving forward. And then I have a simple thing where I choose 3 projects to focus on for that quarter. So this is outside normal client work, right? So for example, an ongoing project I have is run a workshop, in like April, May, June. Okay. So there's one project. Another one, like from last month was to redo my course. That probably took, the most part, but it's just 3 projects. And then,
So three projects for each month or for the 3 months?
Well, for the quarter, for the 3 months.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
So one project may take the duration. Mm-hmm. In fact, some of them could take the duration, whereas some might be
overlapping.
Quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then what happens is if some opportunity comes in or some idea, and this happens all the time to us, right? Instead of going, oh yeah, no, I'm going to do this and no, I'm going to do that. It's like, oh, hold on, let's check in with the plan. So I've got a weekly review process that keeps anchoring me back to the plan. Like, where is it? Where am I at? And so this actually happened just last week, George, in your course. Your course about courses, I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a course for human design projectors, because I've been asked about that, blah, blah, blah. I thought that's a fantastic idea. And then a few days later, I checked in with my plan and I'm like, Danny, where on earth does it say that? Nowhere. The answer's nowhere. But what it did say is what I'm meant to be working on is a quiet marketing course. And the other components are actually feeding into that anyway. So that's actually going to happen. So I'm like, no, don't put something else on your plate here. Like, you've got these things, and maybe, keep that in mind for the next 3 months, maybe.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That it kind of is this middle ground between, all right, stay focused. 3 months is not too long, and it's enough time also to get something done, of course. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice that you're like, okay, yes, of course there are good ideas. There's always the next 3 months after that, and the next 3 months after that. So it's a very nice pace to kind of plan and get things done. And one of the things that, you are part of what you're teaching is kind of giving people or giving our creations the time and space to mature. So what does that mean?
Yeah. Oh my God. So this started off as just like a really nice philosophical idea, like give things space to breathe. And now It's like a really legit business strategy for me. So if I think back to the Facebook marketing days, it was like, get an idea, put it out. Get an idea, put it out. Because in these groups, there was always an offer day, right? So you could promote something. Right. So it was just like flick, 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 flick. And okay, there can be some value in that and just experimenting and things like that. But what I found is as I kind of held on to things a little bit more and not have this energy of, it's basically that fear of missing out energy. Like, well, if I don't post it today and it's offer day, then it's going to be a whole week before anyone, sees something from me, that kind of thing. But I found that as I held on to the idea a bit more, it just developed into such a better idea. So if I started to notice, like, man, if I had have put it out already, I hadn't even considered all these other things that maybe I don't really want to happen. And this version is way better. So yeah, now I really enjoy allowing things to percolate. And even with, I had a little mentorship start recently, and I remember there were just aspects of that hadn't seemed to kind of land. And I just take it with curiosity now. I'm like, yeah, I wonder about that bit. I wonder, and I just trust that that piece will land soon, sometime soon, instead of rushing it through.
And one of the other things that I want to touch on is this idea of organizing our time, planning our time. How do you look at how have you found it successful to plan your time? Now, we talked about this 3-month, right? This
Yeah,
3-month,
yeah.
and for those who are curious how this 3-month planning will work, Danny's going to have a course on that. So be sure to check out go to her website, join her newsletter. I promise you're going to enjoy how she writes her newsletters. If you like this kind of energy and these kinds of values, I think you'll enjoy it. So you can hear more about the 3-month planning course coming up. But and then you have this weekly review. So tell us more about anything else
Yeah.
about how we
The
organize. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think how I schedule my week is still a work in progress in many ways, but I'm so happy with where I've got it now. So what I do is, well, first of all, I kind of theme my week. So Monday and now Tuesday are quiet desk days. So these are just like the days where I don't have any, I certainly don't have any clients. Sometimes I might have a personal appointment or something, like for my own business development or whatever. But no clients. So then there's nowhere I need to be. I can just focus on my projects. And then Wednesday and Thursday are my client days. And then Friday is Danny Day. And various things can happen on that day. I generally not work, but sometimes if things have like not quite happened to plan, I might do a few things. Like I do my weekly review on a Friday, that kind of thing. And then, so what I'm doing at the moment is I have a minimum of 3 co-working sessions that line up with the 3 projects. So it's like this co-working session is for that, for that. So I know what's going on in that regard. And what's interesting, I was showing my own group this layout last week, and one of the members said, but Danny, what if someone, like, what if a client wants to book in and you've already got these she didn't know that I had defined client days yet, and she's like, what do you do then? So she felt anxious about making like recurring appointments, because what if a client wants to book in there? And I'm like, look, I have predetermined session times for clients, and that's it, So if they can't fit into that, they're not my ideal client, really. And if they need to reschedule, then chances are there'll be an opening in one of those predetermined times, And she was like that was, wow, Now I got to say, in the beginning, and maybe you were a bit the same, George, I don't know, but I was making myself very available. I was available, probably 6 days a week, and early in the morning, and so I was a bit all over the place. But I just, I think it's really important to start the way we mean to carry on. So if it doesn't give me joy to be seeing a client at 7 o'clock in the morning, which means I've probably got to get up at 5, then
yes.
I'm not going to, I trust that the right people will come.
Yes. Well, that's the thing about having our own business. It's like we get to set the kind of schedule and way of working that is sort of our ideal life. And yes, we need to be reasonable about it, but there is a lot of space there to be reasonable about it and be sustainable. And so I like that you say, hey, you know what, Wednesday, Thursday, hey, that's 2 days. People can usually schedule something then. If they really can't, hey, there's plenty of other providers that you introduce them to. It's like you don't have to take everybody and accommodate everyone, right? So thank you for that. So as we close off this conversation, anything else, any other words of encouragement, for us, those, especially those who, since you work with sensitive women and, especially now as we're recording this during, the coronavirus times, which is going to go on for another few months at least. What's any other, words of encouragement?
Well, probably what comes to mind is just, I was reflecting on something a client had said the other day, and like she's finding her groove with things because she's not looking at how it should be done, right? And this seems obvious in a way, but it's not. I think most people have difficulty with marketing because they're looking at what should be done, they're looking at the rules, and they're not really connecting with what feels true and right, and what would be a genuine expression of them. You know, someone's told them you need to do that, and they're like, and I did this too. Okay, I've got to do that then, you know, to be successful. But I don't know, I think that's probably my parting word. It's like, how you can you really be? Like, what if you could just be really you in the way you present your business, and what would that look like? You know?
I love that.
And yeah, for
Yeah,
most people, it brings a smile to their face, you know?
totally,
Like, oh,
totally.
I
Yeah,
could be
like you
really
said, like
me.
if
Wow.
we aren't giving ourselves that kind of pressure to follow other people's strategies, if it doesn't feel true to us, if we allow ourselves to do, like you said, what is most you, then that's where the genius, like each
Mm,
person's genius comes in. It's like, yes, thank you
mm.
so much for the work that you do and the kinds of energy that you bring to your community and to the world. So I hope those watching have found this valuable, and please do and connect with Danny in the links below the video or above, wherever it is. Facebook page, you're active there. Your website, obviously, you have a newsletter. And I think you're on Instagram too. And so,
Yeah,
anyway, we'll put the links that you choose to be active in, and
sure.
people can follow you
Yeah.
there. So thank you
Great.
so
Thank you
much.
so much, George. It's been great having a chat. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.